Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Reflections, a joint program between Cambodia ASEAN International Institute and Tmay Online News. I am Sarun, Head of Corporate Training and also the moderator for today's discussions. For your information, a reflection is a discussion in English of various topics to share experience, ideas, thoughts and life lessons for young people and publics. For today's discussions, we are going to discuss about English language learning of Cambodian youth. And joining with me by our honorable guest speaker, Mr. Chap Vikran. He is the head of English department at Cam ASEAN, and he also holds his master's degree from Hong Kong in education. Next, Ms. Shiv Sorida. She is the English language teacher at Cam ASEAN, and she holds a bachelor degree of international relations. And our last guest speaker, Mr. Kasi Adam. He is the English language teacher at Cam ASEAN, and he also holds his master's degree in international affairs and global enterprise. Today we will discuss about the topic on English language learning of Cambodian youth, and we will observe and get a lot of idea from our guest speaker regarding to why is it important for our Cambodian youth to study English language, and what are the techniques for them to study more faster and effective. So I would like to begin with today's discussion with the first questions to Mrs. Chap Vikran. So why do Cambodian students or youth should study English?
I think because we live in an era of globalization and Cambodia is part of ASEAN community, so English is the language that we use as a medium of communication. So they need to understand this language in order to communicate, collaborate, or even compete in the region and on the globe.
Right. Thank you so much for your. As you can see, is that he has mentioned about the English language is important and not only in regional and so as a global as well. I'd like to hear from our second speaker, Ms. Sorida, as you are a teacher at English teacher at Cam ASEAN. So, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I completely agree with Mr. Vikran. And learning a new language, especially an international language like English, it just opens doors to newer opportunities and lets people learn things that they probably won't be able to learn if they only know their own language. So yeah, just learning a new language in general is a very positive thing to do.
All right, thank you. Then for Kasi Adam, as you are the foreigners coming to Cambodia and teach Cambodian youth, so what is the difference, can you share with us, what is the difference between the students in Cambodia and also students in your country to study English?
Sure, yeah. Some of the things I've noticed, there are some social differences. And just the amount of free time that a person has. Cambodians are hardworking, and Cambodian youth are hardworking, and they support their household, and they're trying to meet their goals, whether it's professional or personal goals, and they have to support their household at the same time. So their ability to give time to study a foreign language may be a little different than other places and other demographics. Okay. But that's also quite amazing because many Cambodian youth, they're actually doing very well in English. So with that being said, with those responsibilities of producing for the household, they're still able to achieve these foreign language skills, and that's impressive.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you. So you have mentioned about different cultures and the way of studying as well. Back to Ms. Sorida, as you are the English language teaching at Cam ASEAN, and however, your bachelor degree is in international relations. So why are you interested in being an English teacher?
Well, because I feel like it's my duty to help teach the newer generations about things that I know. And I've been very privileged and very lucky to be able to learn the English language and become really good at it. And I felt like since I know both English and I know Khmer also, I could use both those skills to help teach the younger people, or not just younger people, anyone who wants to learn English. I could teach them with the skill sets that I have. And I study international relations, and international relations requires communication and understanding things that are happening globally. So by knowing English, if they want to study something like I do, then they could use English to help them also. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Since we have observed that some students or Cambodian youth they are interested in studying English language or any other language. But some, they also focus only on their specific skill, for example. And it could make our Cambodian students that cannot speak English very well or become a good speaker as well. So regarding to this case, so could you share with us about any other certain approaches of the method or the way how to study English more effectively? So I would love to hear from Mr. Kasiadam.
Sure, yeah. There's an idea about a functional approach. Learning form and grammar and vocabulary is important, but operationalizing that, putting those forms in operation, I think is critical. So using it in context, in social contexts, I think would be far more effective way to learning a language kind of more quickly and more enjoyably, rather than being in a classroom with a book and paper. We're in a coffee shop chatting with a foreigner, or we're going to an English-speaking movie or something like this. So these social interactions, I think, really make it more enjoyable and more sustainable in wanting them to learn and keep learning a foreign language.
All right, thank you. So I will get back to you for the next questions. Let's move to Ms. Javikran as the head of English department, and I believe that you have a big pictures since you have working with teachers of English and also students as well. So do you think that technology could help students to study English more faster and effectively?
Yes, I would say the answer can be yes and no. Yes, in a way that students have all the resources within their reach. They can do research at their own pace, they can do practice within their own chosen materials. But at the same time, technology also brings with it distractions. So to me, if students want to be good at English, they have to devote their time and efforts and concentration toward a specific area that they would like to master. So the first thing is deliberate practice, just like teacher Casey mentioned, functional approach. They need to be able to communicate using the language. So it has to be deliberate. Number two, they have to immerse themselves in the English-speaking environment. Because no matter how much grammar or vocabulary you have accumulated, you cannot use it well when you don't really experience it in the real world. So to me, I have observed how Cambodian students learn, and yes, people who are successful, they go out in the real world and put the language into practice.
Okay, thank you. So, Ms. Sorida, do you have any ideas regarding to this one?
Yes, regarding to technology, of course, technology is very helpful. Even in Cambodian, we use technology, we incorporate it into our lessons. And the students really like using the app because they can study anywhere they want. I want to talk more about the functional thing that Casey mentioned because, like he said, when you apply what you learn a lot faster. And students, they tend to just do the lessons in class, and then when they get out, they don't really use it. Or they are afraid to use it because they might make mistakes. The thing is that our language, Khmer, is very literal in meaning. But the English language, there are so many hidden meanings or different ways that you can interpret it. So by using it in real life, you can actually learn about the different things it could mean, or you can learn about idioms that people use, or you can learn about just the normal ways that people speak, because people don't actually speak like the full grammar rules that we learn in the book. Yeah, so it's just so much better if they're not afraid of making mistakes. They go out and they learn from the mistakes they make, and they take back criticism and just improve on it instead of being very shy and shutting down. Yeah, I just want Cambodian youth to have more confidence in making mistakes. Yeah.
It's a good question as I share with you. As you mentioned, that you would love to encourage all the Cambodian youth to be confident and can dare to do something without any fear of the mistakes. For the follow-up question for the Casey Adam, so as we can see is that most of the students, sometimes they can write and then they know how to use English, but sometimes they are not to speak. For example, and when they speak, it's like they put the word by word, not a sentence. So do you have any techniques or the way how to study with the speaking more effectively?
Sure, yeah. So in the U.S., young people take a driving test, okay? There's a booklet that the state gives out of rules and regulations and all these different laws for driving. So it's easy to study that book and read those rules and laws. But when it comes to taking the driving test, right, getting behind the wheel, right, it's a different kind of set of skills. So that's kind of where we are with language learning, I think. You know, we have the book and we know the rules, but now we have to drive. Now we have to speak, right? So I really do think that the more we do it, the more we know it. And a message I'd like to share is that many of us might be surprised at how many foreigners are willing to engage with young people. They want to, especially in Phnom Penh. It is becoming an international city, and there's access here for native speakers. And I believe that if Cambodian youth can bring their group together and organize something, I think we would be surprised at how many foreigners would be willing to go somewhere on a weekend and chat about environmental issues, or chat about trade issues, or chat about a topic. I think we would be surprised if we just ask. I mean, we miss all the shots we don't take. If we don't ask, the answer is no. So I would encourage people, please, open yourself up and bring your friend if you need to,
okay,
and have a chat. Yeah.
Right, thank you. Okay, I would take the further questions to Mr. Javikran as well, as we know that Mr. Javikran also the champions of the public speakings in 2016, and we would love to know from you about your techniques. How do you improve your English speaking skill more effectively?
Yes, it started in 2012, if I'm not wrong, when I joined the debate club at the university, and I realized my speaking ability was far behind everybody else. I could understand grammar, vocabulary, my reading, listening skill were all good except speaking, because I didn't speak long before I joined the club. So when I attended the club, I realized I had to speed up to get on par with everyone, or even to win the competition. So the way I did was that I devoted my time to practice. And when we study English, it is important for us to understand that English has a status, because English is a language. So we need to be specific, how proficient we want to be in this language. We have the term English as a lingua franca, as a third language, which means as long as you can communicate, whether in bits and pieces, in words or whatever, just get the things done, or go to the market, just talk about number randomly. This is fine if that is what people want. And we also have English as a foreign language, which means you have to understand the basic grammar rules so that you can put sentences together in a grammatically correct way, or you can say something that fits the convention and register of the language. The top status is ESL, English as a second language, and that's what I use in order to improve my public speaking skills. Public speaking skill needs both language and content. So I had to understand language in specific context. So I went into trade, into commerce, business, ethics, philosophy, psychology, anthropology. Any topic that was given to me, I had to do rigorous research and develop those language. So again, it depends on the learner's goals, how much proficient they want to be in the language. Yes, if they want to be good at public speaking, just practice public speaking. And again, it's good to memorize bits and pieces in the language. Don't wait until you can understand the rules, why they are together. Yeah.
I believe that studying English is not that easy as well. So in order to improve ourselves in terms of speaking skill, writing skill, or listening skill, we have to put our effort and try our best as well, as Mr. Javikran have just said as well. Back to Ms. Zorida as well. Since you are right now, currently you are teaching at Cambodian, and I believe that you have like a mixed students sometime in the class as well. So how can you handle with this teaching style or this teaching approach? Like some students are the slow learner and some students are the fast learners, for example. So how can you, as a teacher, how do you handle with this case?
I'll be honest, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
When their levels are so different, because we need to find a certain activity that they would both enjoy doing. It can't be too hard for the slower learners, but it can't be too easy that the fast learners don't have anything to do in class. What I like to do is I'd like to take an activity or a topic that uses simpler words but requires more critical thinking. So that the simpler words makes it easy for the slower learners to understand, and then the critical thinking aspect, you have the higher level learners thinking about it, and then they explain and they talk to each other. I feel like peer-to-peer learning is very popular here because students tend to be afraid to ask their teachers, you know, but they're definitely okay with asking their friends and their classmates, no matter what level they are. So, you know, just do something where both of them understand and both of them feel a certain sense of interest, and then in the end they'll learn from you and they'll learn from their classmates too. And I noticed that by the end of maybe halfway through the term, their levels start to become a bit more balanced. Yeah, and it also encourages them to talk to each other, which is great too. Yeah.
Okay, right. Thank you. Thank you. For the follow-up questions connected with the previous question I asked to Ms. Lorida. So, yeah, so different students also have a different requirement as well. For example, like some students, they prefer like local teacher, like Cambodian teachers who can teach English, because sometimes when they don't understand, they can ask and then they can explain in Cambodian language. But some students, they also prefer native teachers, that they expect that when they join with their class, they expect their pronunciation would be the native speakers. So what do you think about this case as well? Kasiada.
Sure. Yeah. The Khmer teacher, very valuable for learning a second language. We can communicate in terms that the students recognize and understand, and we can use cultural references to help them get a deeper understanding. So it is valuable to have the Khmer teacher speak in terms both in language and in culture to connect with that learner and kind of keep it more centered, a student-centered approach. Having the foreign teacher in the classroom is helpful with pronunciation, but certainly with some of the Western culture aspect and explaining context of the language learning and the grammar and the idioms and all these things. So it is very much a partnership, and I believe both are necessary and both are helpful.
Back to Mr. Chavvikran, as you are the head of the English department. So what do you think about this case?
I think it's important to have a mixture of both, because student needs to experience different ways of teaching as well as different cultures that will help them improve their English very quickly. And again, if we differentiate ESL from EFL, in international schools right now, students do not just learn English. They learn math, science, physics, using English as the medium of instruction. So in order to do that, it's better to have native speaker teachers, because they have been through that on their own, so it's easy to explain the concepts. For Khmer teachers, yes, we can explain the grammar rules because we have gone through a similar experience, how the L1 and the L2 are conflicting each other and how we handle those differences. So to me, if possible, students need to experience both cultures and also experience as much as they can. Yeah, sometimes even beyond native speakers. There are a lot of people who are not native speakers but have very good English. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for your information also regarding to your experience, also your tactics or your methods, how to teach a student, how to improve your English speaking skill, or how to use English more effectively regarding to our daily life as well. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we will have the second sections after the break. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the second section, and I would further my questions to Mr. Chavvikran. Do you think that age affects the language acquisitions?
Yes, it depends on the theories we use to look at. I think that's more advanced, but we have the theory of brain plasticity. So if we talk from this perspective, it means that young learners have more advantage because their brain is more elastic, meaning they can accommodate more cultures and more language at the early stage. But in a way, adult learners can also benefit because they have experience, because they have mature L1. Because the mature L1 from the Universal Grammar by Noam Chomsky established the neural patterns for you already. But the thing is, when you learn different patterns, it tends to conflict with the patterns you have. So adult learners have benefits of experience, but they stand the risk of fossilization, which means when they make mistakes, they tend to habitualize those mistakes. If they make wrong pronunciation, they tend to make it as a habit. So again, this question, it depends on the learner's specific goals. I mean, if their goal is to speak English like a native speaker in terms of accent, pronunciation, body language, tonality, young learners have more advantage. But if they just use it for basic communication, key terms, in a professional setting, adult learners can have more advantage.
Okay, right. Based on what Mr. Vikrant have just mentioned, so I'd like to further my questions to Ms. Zoridas about the students studying in the class as well. What do you think about their English proficiency as you are teachers, that you teach the student every day?
It differs with different classes. Of course, the more advanced classes would have students who are better at pronunciation. But here's the thing though, just because you're in an advanced level doesn't mean your pronunciation is perfect, or doesn't mean you have a perfect grasp of the grammar. It's more like you understand things easier, you know. And I've had some classes where it's not really advanced, but their speaking is so good. I wonder, oh, are they in the right level? Shouldn't they be higher? But then I check their writing and I realize, oh, that's why they're in this level. You know, they don't improve all four skills at the same time. They tend to focus so much on one skill that they lag behind in the other skill. Yeah, so it's not just about your age and how it affects your acquisition. It's about how you apply what you learn to all four skills, and it's also about situations too. You know, if you don't have much knowledge of a certain language, but then you get put into a country where nobody speaks your language, then you are forced to learn that language very quickly, and it tends to be beneficial that way sometimes. You know, you learn things so quick and you learn their culture so quick. So yeah, it just really depends on the situation, I feel like. Yeah.
Okay. Regarding to what our speaker have mentioned and shared the experience so far regarding to studying English language as well. Let back to Mr. Kasi Adam. So, what do you think about the relation between society and the youth in terms of using the English language?
Sure. Yeah. So it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to engage with their community using the English language. And my general observation is that many Cambodian youth they know about world events and they know about current issues, but not very deeply. And using the English language and exchanging their own ideas and their questions with other people from outside of the country can bring them new ideas and open new doors. So I would just say that English is, it's certainly an international language, but it's an opportunity to connect with other cultures and other ideas that are right here in Phnom Penh, but with a language barrier, they just don't have access to those right now. And with learning more English and learning more culture, then they can become more involved in not just their local community and their national community, but in the global community, and they can become a world citizen. And they'll be learning from people from around the world and bring those solutions back home, and bring some of those solutions back home to their local community and their nation.
All right. Since you have mentioned that English language is international and it's really important for all the Cambodian youth, not only Cambodian youth but the other youth as well.
Yeah.
Yes, to study, because we can use it as a tool to communicate and also to connect with there are people across the country. Back to Mr. Vikrant. So, could you share with us? I believe that most of the students sometimes they take it carelessly when they study the language. For example, in English language, they don't try so hard sometimes. So in order to push them and encourage them to study harder, so can you share with us about the benefit of using the English language? So for example, if they can use the English language, so what are the big benefits that the student will have?
Okay, thank you. I think for English language, it is an international language. So English has reached that status long before any other language. Other languages are racing to get that global status right now. Chinese, yeah, and a number of other languages. But if you can communicate in English, you can use it for many other opportunities, like scholarship opportunities, to be good at university skills, or to be good at working skills. Because English is a medium, as I say, and English is a mature language. There has been a lot of research written in English. So if students are more committed toward the language, they can use it to do research on their own and learn a lot. So the benefits can be they can represent Cambodia to the world, or they can bring the world to Cambodia. This is what we are doing in the globalized era. And they can represent our culture, or they can enhance our understanding of other cultures. And regarding the tips of studying English, I would say most of the students get stuck with the foundation. We all know that grammar and vocabulary and pronunciation are the basics, but most of the students get lost in the basics because they have spent too long studying those basics. The more important skills are the 4 macro skills, and the productive skills always lag behind the receptive skills. We can have students who are good at reading and listening but cannot speak and write. This is normal. So the advice is that try to allocate different time to different skills. For example, if you don't have time to speak in class, join a study club or find a friend at a cafe and just to speak. Don't wait until you understand everything and produce. Otherwise, they will get stuck in the basics. And this is what I have observed.
Yeah. Right. Thank you, Mr. Vikram, for sharing a wonderful idea in terms of the benefit when they can use English language and what are the benefits that they will get as well. Okay, connect with these questions to Ms. Soridas as well. So, as you can see, is that some students, not students, but adults as well, or people, I can say, so they can use English language, but it is not the level that the society are required. For example, sometimes they can speak but they cannot write, and when they write it is not a perfect writing as well, so they miss some type of error of the grammars and some stuff of that as well. So based on your perspective, so to what level that students should learn English language in order to reach the requirement of the from the society as the working class as well?
Oh, but the society has many different requirements for many different things. Like if you are required to be an academic or a scholar in society, then of course you need to reach a very high level of understanding, because you need to do research, you need to understand past journals, you need to understand academic terms. But if you just want to be someone who contributes to society, like as a worker, just communication skills is enough. I feel like speaking is very important, because once you're able to communicate confidently, then when people tell you, oh, this is wrong, and they explain why it's wrong, you understand it more easily. I mean, if you're just good at writing, but then when people are trying to tell you why it's wrong and you don't understand what they're saying, then it's not really going to fix anything. Yeah, so I feel like right now we're at quite a good level of speaking. There are a lot of youths here who speak really well. And I think it just depends on their goals. Yeah. And, well, what do you think, Casey?
Yeah, so what is the required level of English in society? I think goals matter, certainly. I think interest matters also. Learning a language, it is difficult and it can be challenging. So what motivates you to learn this language? Is it an external motivation or an internal motivation? Part of that comes from goals, but I would say that a way to increase or improve one's motivation is to bring in more culture. I would say it brings a flavor and taste to the language when we have some culture to lean on and to put it in context. What's the right level of English? That's an interesting question. because I think communication is maybe a better way to frame this. Can we communicate what we need to? And that involves writing and speaking and body language. So am I able to communicate my daily needs or my dreams or my thoughts? Can I communicate those? Not just in English, but communication. And when I can do that, then I've achieved the right level.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you for sharing your ideas and also the meaningful message to our Cambodian youth as well when they're watching with this program as well. Okay. My last question for our 3 guest speakers today is about the recommendations or any good advice for our Cambodian youth in order to study or learn English even by themselves or taking the class to be more effective that they can use that English to work and apply for the scholarship or any other benefit, for example. So let's start from Mr. Vikram.
Yes, I would say there are a lot of tips that we can give, but I would like just talk about 3 tips. The first one is immersion. Just get yourself surrounded with English environment. Invest in the internet connection, YouTube video, or go to watch movies without looking at the subtitles, just for ourselves. And also talk to friends in English. Yes, this is the first tip. The second tip is to find a platform where you can put your skills into practice, like public speaking platform, study club, to take it to the next level. Because Casey mentioned the benefit of motivation. You need to always go further and further until you reach the desired level of proficiency that you can communicate within the requirements of the context. Okay, and lastly, I think just be a good observer. There is English everywhere right now on billboard. When you go shopping, there are a lot of English language that students can learn. So just be a good observer and be playful. Yes, to study English, we have to be playful because English language has hidden meanings that we can twist, we can play around, we have idioms. So just be playful and have fun. Yeah, so that they are not scared of making mistakes. Like teacher Zorida mentioned earlier, they have to be willing to make mistakes and laugh at their own mistakes along the way.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And how about Ms. Zorida?
For me, I think that immersion is very important. I liked what he mentioned about watching movies without subtitles, but I think you should put subtitles, but not your own language. English subtitles. You can see how they say it, you can even see how it's spelled. And then you're teaching yourself to read and pay attention. It just makes you read even faster. It improves your reading skills. Yeah, and also there's this really interesting thing that my friends do. Like my friends, they wanted to improve their English. So what they did is they opened a club where they teach foreigners how to speak Khmer. You know, so they're teaching the foreigners, but they're also learning to communicate what the Khmer word means to the foreigners. And after doing it like for a certain period of time, they see that their language really improves because they're learning from the foreigners also. Yeah, so this is really cool, you know, sharing your language to other people. And finally, the last thing that I want to mention is I would like it for people to not think that just because they're focusing on a certain language that they are abandoning their own language. Yeah, we've spoken our own language for our whole lives, and we're not cheating on our language. You know? So don't feel ashamed when you find yourself speaking more of a certain language than the other. It's just your learning process. And don't try to point out when someone is speaking too much English and not enough Khmer. Just let them learn the way that they want to learn. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. How about Casey?
Sure, yeah. I'll offer two ideas, mostly about speaking. You know, if we want if we want sounds to come out of our mouth, we need to put sounds into us. So I believe listening is a key part of speaking. Listening to more English, just putting more sounds in your mind, and then you can replicate those sounds. I mean, as a baby listens for months or a year before they start speaking. They listen first, and then they start speaking. So I think that's something that we can try to do. And I mean, we do that with music and movies and awards shows. The Academy Awards just happened recently. A lot of culture there, a lot of English opportunity, a lot of immersion opportunity. Music, of course. So listening more to English will help with speaking. The second idea is something called shower conversations. So talk to yourself. Talk to yourself in the shower. Have 2 people that you're representing in the shower. Talk to yourself. Introduce yourself to yourself, right? And then you can find gaps in your understanding. You can find gaps in, I need to figure out how to describe people more, or I need to figure out how to talk about the weather more. So if you talk to yourself in the shower, it's a private place. You can do it any time that you're free, and we're speaking more and we're practicing more. I think that's a valuable idea, especially about identifying areas of improvement and finding the gaps in your speaking ability. I think that's a great way to start. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for your response, and I would say is that I really appreciate all your time as well, and I love all the message or your recommendations to our Cambodian youth to study or learn English language more effectively regarding to your best technique as well. So ladies and gentlemen, you are watching the reflections, and right now we are coming to the ends, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our honorable guest speaker who have spent their valuable time to share with us about their experience, ideas, thoughts regarding to the English language learning of Cambodian youth in Cambodia. Ladies and gentlemen, the reflection will be coming back with the second topic. See you next time. Thank you.
Welcome to Cam ASEAN. This is a wonderful school for you to master your business English skills as well as your professional skills. Cam ASEAN has well-appointed classrooms, also a student lounge and a language lab. The language lab is wonderful for them to improve by themselves their English abilities. We have a wonderful conference hall where we host many activities.
I am Sunny. I studied Business English and Skills at Cam ASEAN and I'm ready for the ASEAN integration. So why wait? Come and join us now.
ចង់សិក្សាភាសាអង់គ្លេសនិងជំនាញសិក្សានៅ Cam ASEAN